anybody until you know it's over with.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
If you want to call your next witness, please.
Ruby Gonzalez.
George, right here. You solemnly swear the evidence of the testimony given in the cause will be the truth, self you have.
Yes.
All right, you lower your hand, just have a seat over here in the witness stand for us. Adjust that microphone if you need to.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Would you introduce yourself, please, to the jury?
Yes. My name is Ruby Gonzalez.
Ms. Gonzalez, I can tell you're a police officer.
Yes, sir.
Who are you with?
The Uvalde Police Department.
How long have you been with the Uvalde Police Department?
Approximately a year and a half.
And before you worked at the Uvalde Police Department, where did you work?
I was employed with the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District Police Department.
How long were you at the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District Police Department?
About a year, give or take. Maybe a little over a year.
So when did you start?
In July of 2021, I believe.
And that was your first job as a police officer?
No, sir.
What was your first job as a police officer?
My first full-time job as a police officer was with the city of Uvalde.
And that was when?
In December of 2016.
Is that what started your law enforcement career in 2016?
Full-time, yes, sir.
And before that, you were part-time?
Yes, sir.
And tell us about that.
I was a reserve officer for the city of Junction.
Of what?
The city of Junction?
Junction, Texas.
Yes, sir.
So when were you a reserve officer?
For 4 months, and then I got an opportunity to come work for the city of Uvalde.
And what is a reserve officer?
It's just a officer that your license is being held by that department. If they need you to work any type of security or anything like that, that's pretty much what you do. If they're short on shifts or they need coverage somewhere, you just go in and you cover that for that department.
Is it a paid position or a volunteer position?
It's a volunteer position.
So you don't get paid,
No, sir.
but your commission is held, and what does that mean?
That means that my license will be active, so I'd still be able to work any other type of employment that is available to officers.
And what is a commission? How do you get a commission?
By the agency. So they hold your license for however long you want to stay employed as a reserve officer, and that's what it is. They just hold your license.
Do you have to have training to be a reserve officer?
Yes, sir.
And tell us about that.
You have to be a licensed peace officer with the state of Texas.
So you have to go through basic police officer training
Yes, sir.
and pass that.
Yes, sir.
When did you do that?
In August of 2015, I believe.
What got you in law enforcement?
My family, they're all law enforcement.
And it's, so you chose to go into law enforcement. You made application, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And was that for each job that you just discussed with us, whether it's a reserve officer in Junction, the school district, the city of Uvalde, you make application to work there?
Yes, sir.
And if I understand correctly, you went to Uvalde Police Department first. Was that a full-time or part-time job?
That was full-time.
And what did you do?
I was a full-time peace officer.
And what were your duties?
Enforcing traffic laws, investigating crimes, maintaining the peace, things like that.
Maintaining the peace?
Yes, sir.
Did that require making arrests?
Yes, sir.
Putting handcuffs on people?
Yes, sir.
And from there, you decided to apply at the school district police department?
Yes, sir.
What caused that change?
Just where I was at in life, I had a lot of other things going on in my personal life, and I felt like I needed just a change of pace.
Okay. And was this a change of pace?
Yes, sir.
So you went to work for the school district police department?
Yes, sir.
And how many people were at the police department when you went to work for them?
I believe there was 5 of us.
And can you name who they were and the rank?
Yes, sir. My chief of police was Chief Arredondo. My lieutenant was Lieutenant Hernandez. Then I had a coworker, Officer Ruiz, Officer Flores, Officer Gonzalez, and myself.
And so you named 3 ranks, is that correct?
2.
There's a police chief,
Yes, and then there was just a lieutenant.
a lieutenant
Yes, sir.
below the police chief,
It was, yes, sir.
that rank,
Yes, sir.
and then what was the rank of the rest of you?
Just peace officers, just school-based officers.
And is rank important if you're being told to do something?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
Anytime you're given a directive from somebody who holds a higher position than you have to abide by what they're telling you.
And you've been both at Junction, the city of Uvalde, and the school district. Is that true for all 3 of those
Yes, sir.
police departments you've worked in?
Yes, sir.
That they have ranks,
Yes, sir.
and you abide by the people that are above you?
Yes, sir.
So at the school district, who was the person of highest rank?
Chief Arredondo.
And what was your jurisdiction at the school district?
All the campuses within Uvalde Independent School District.
And that was y'all's primary jurisdiction?
Yes, sir.
So that if something happened on the campus, who was required to be the people that responded?
We would.
The school district?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Even though it's in the city of Uvalde,
Yes, sir.
the school district police officers handle problems within the city,
Within the school district, yes, sir.
within the school district. So on May 24, 2022, were you working that day?
Yes, sir.
What was your shift?
I can't recall if I was a 7 to 3 or the 8 to 4.
But at any rate, no later than 8 o'clock, you went to work.
Yes, sir.
And where did you go to work?
That day I was at Morales Junior High.
And what were you doing at Morales Junior High?
I was covering the school for another officer.
For another officer?
Yes, sir.
So were officers assigned to specific campuses?
Somewhat, it varied, just depending on where we were needed at most.
Would you describe that for us?
Yes, sir. So typically the high school, you would have more officers responding there just because you deal with a little bit more because the students are older. Secondly, you would have an officer assigned to the middle school. So that would be like the second tier. So you would have an officer designated at that school at all times as well.
And how many middle schools were there?
I believe just one.
Okay. And how many officers were assigned at the high school?
I believe 3. Yes, I believe 3.
And then elementary schools, did they have officers assigned specifically?
No, sir.
How did y'all handle elementary schools?
We would rotate. How Chief Arredondo wanted us to do it was if we came in as the 7 to 3 o'clock person or 7 to 4 o'clock person, that officer would typically rotate to the elementary schools.
And what does rotate to the elementary schools mean?
You're making rounds, you're ensuring doors are locked, showing the administration in the main office that you're there, you're available if they need anything, and then if they give you the all clear that you were okay to go, you would move on to the next school. And you pretty much did that same rotation throughout this district.
So one of y'all's duties was to make sure doors were locked?
Yes, sir.
And if doors weren't locked, what did you do?
We'd bring it up to the administration and let them know. We address it to the teacher.
Excuse me?
We bring it up to administration or we'd address it to the teacher.
Okay. And who was on that rotation to the elementary schools to check to see if doors were locked?
Can you say that again?
What officers within the school district were assigned to that rotation to go to the elementary schools and make sure the doors were locked?
It was all of us.
Was that you?
Yes, sir.
Did it include Adrian Gonzales?
Yes, sir.
And y'all made sure that that was part of y'all's regular routine?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with the term lockdown procedure?
Yes, sir.
What was your familiarity with lockdown procedure?
Out of sight, lights off, doors locked, and stay out of view.
And did you have anything to do with the training on the lockdown procedure?
Not that I remember.
Okay. That was done primarily by the administration?
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure.
If other officers in your department did that, that's not something you're familiar with?
No, sir.
Okay. And as a school district police officer, was there requirements for training that was different from your training with the police department?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
We had to take a school-based law enforcement course.
A school-based law enforcement course?
Yes, I believe it was online. It was an online course that we took.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
In addition to that, did you take active shooter training?
Yes, sir.
Where did you take that?
That was hosted at the Uvalde High School.
And who was teaching that course?
I believe it was taught by 2. I believe it was Officer Ruiz and Officer Gonzalez.
Is that Adrian Gonzales?
Yes.
And that's the man who's sitting in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And how long was that course?
8 hours
And where did you take it?
at the Uvalde High School.
And was the course divided into classroom as well as field work, or was it just classroom, just field work? Explain that to us.
The morning was the classwork portion of it, and the afternoon was more of like a hands-on version of it. They run you through scenarios.
They would do what?
Like run you through scenarios?
Scenarios?
Yes, sir.
Did that include solo entry?
I believe so.
That is one-man entry?
Yes.
So on May 24, 2022, you worked that day?
Yes, sir.
When did your shift start approximately?
Give or take around 8 a.m.
And what did you do as part of your shift?
I responded to, I was at Morales Junior High. I was in the courtyard area while the kids arrived for school, rotated to the cafeteria, back down to the playground area. Once the bell rang, We walked the hallways to ensure that the students went into their classrooms, checked the restrooms, make sure nobody was in there, like skipping classes. And then the kids broke for lunch.
Okay. So that took most of your morning?
Yes, sir.
And when did you break for lunch?
I believe the students left for lunch at around 12, 11, between 11 and 12, if I'm not 100%.
What did you do then when the kids broke for lunch?
I left campus as well
And where did you go?
to go get lunch
And where did you go to get lunch?
at my residence.
How far is your residence from Robb Elementary School?
Maybe less than a mile, about a mile.
Okay. And did you get to finish your lunch?
No, sir.
What, if anything, interrupted lunch?
I heard gunshots when I was outside of my residence.
And what were you doing outside your residence?
I was taking my dog out.
Upon going home, is to take care of your dog?
Just, yes, sir. If I'm able to.
They get a little noon walk or something?
No,
like
sir, just to use the restroom.
that? Okay, very good. So you and your dog were outside and you hear gunshots.
Yes, sir.
That was your first notice?
Yes, sir.
And did you have your uniform on?
No, sir.
Tell us about that.
I took off my uniform when I went inside. I used the restroom, came back out, put my dog on the leash, and that's when we went outside.
Is part of your uniform uncomfortable?
Yes, sir.
What's that?
The duty belt and the undervest.
The what?
The duty belt and the undervest. It's
The duty belt and the undervest?
Yes, sir.
So you take those off when you can, just for comfort.
Yes, sir.
And the undervest, is that a bulletproof vest?
Yes, sir.
Is that assigned to all of the officers at the school district?
Yes, sir.
And the duty belt includes a firearm?
Yes, sir.
And does the school district actually provide y'all with weapons?
At the time, yes, we had the handgun.
Handguns?
Yes, sir.
Were there any rifles?
No, sir.
Okay, so just a handgun for school district officers?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you heard the gunshots, could you tell where they were coming from?
At first, no, sir.
Okay, and then what?
I went inside. I took my dog, I went inside, and that's when I heard on the radio something about a vehicle accident or I think it was a vehicle accident that occurred first.
And did that have anything to do with the gunshots you heard as far as you were concerned at that time?
No, sir.
Okay. So what, did you receive additional information?
Yes, sir.
Tell us what that was.
Shortly after that, I heard an officer go over the radio saying shots fired at the school.
And did you recognize that voice?
Yes, sir.
And who was that?
That was Sergeant Coronel.
Sergeant Coronado?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do when you heard Sergeant Coronado say that there were shots fired at the school?
I grabbed my duty belt, I grabbed my duty belt and I got in my police unit and went to the school.
Okay, so once you heard that there were shots fired, you went to the school.
Yes, sir.
And what happened, when you got to the school, describe what you saw.
I arrived off of Old Carrizo Road. So I parked my unit at that intersection of Old Carrizo and West Cargyle.
And why did you park there?
It's just the way I came from my residence. I parked my unit, I blocked off that road, and then I started going towards the school from where the cafeteria is.
And so you had to get to the school from where you parked on Old Carrizo Road.
Yes, sir.
And what route did you take?
I just cut straight. What route did I take from my house to get to the school?
Well, no, ma'am. From after you parked.
I just ran straight across the road. Old Carrizo is right across the street from Robb Elementary. So I cut through the parking lot where it's a small parking lot, I guess, where they have some of the faculty park. So I just cut through there.
And did you say you ran?
Yes, yes, sir.
And what caused you to run?
Just the sense of urgency.
And where did you run?
To the outer wings where they have the classrooms.
Which classrooms?
I believe it's maybe the second grade wing, second or third, possibly.
Okay. And what did you see there?
There was other officers in that general area.
Okay. And so what did you do?
I met with some of the border patrol agents that were there as well. They were talking about needing to get keys to start evacuating children.
Okay. And so do you know how long it was from when you heard gunshots that you actually got there?
I do not know, sir.
Okay. Because it took until Coronado said gunshots, and then you had to get dressed. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you ran. I drove and then ran
Yes, sir.
to the location. When you got there, tell us how many officers were there.
Where I initially showed up, there was maybe about 10, possibly.
And did you ever go to the 4th grade wing?
I did, yes, sir.
And tell us what you saw there.
There was officers outside of where the building was. They were conducting crowd control of the people that were showing up. There was vehicles parked in the roadway. There was a bus parked in the roadway. Some ambulances.
So by the time you got there, they'd already summoned ambulances and buses.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as far as the number of officers around the 4th grade wing, how many officers did you see approximately, if you know?
I can't give an approximate number.
And did you go into the 4th grade hallway?
No, sir.
Tell us why.
Just the amount of police cars and things that I saw outside, I felt like if I was to have gone in there, it would have just taken up more space.
Okay. Was the hallway full of officers?
Yes, sir.
And can at some point that become a dangerous situation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you did not inject yourself where there was already a hallway full of officers?
No, sir. I made use somewhere else. There was other things that needed to be done.
So once the hallway is full, then you find other things to do?
Yes, sir.
And how do you find other things to do?
I ask around, ask other officers who have been in that area longer than I have if they needed anything or what they need of me to do.
So as an officer, you arrive at the scene and you go to people who've been there before you.
Yes, sir.
And why do you go to the people that are there before you?
To get information. They can relay any type of information that they may have. Given that they've been there on the scene longer than I have, they have certain details that I'm not aware of.
And is that standard when you go to a crime scene?
Yes, sir.
To ask the people that are already there because they have greater information?
Yes, sir.
And do you rely on that information as you make decisions?
Yes, sir.
And in this case, what did you do?
One of the officers said the road needs to get cleared for additional buses. So I moved some police cars that were blocking the roadway. I assisted with some of the crowd control.
Tell us about the crowd control.
Some of the parents and people that live in the neighborhood were standing near the roadway. So one of the officers had instructed me to kind of keep them back, keep them at a safe distance.
Did that take a significant number of officers to do crowd control?
Yes, sir.
And you joined in on that?
Yes, sir.
And when we say crowd control, was that around most of the building?
I'm not sure. It was just where I was at
Where
the
did you
moment.
go?
I went at the intersection of Bettis Street and Geraldine.
Okay. And you did crowd control there?
Yes, sir.
For how long?
Give or take maybe 10 minutes or so.
Okay. And did you see Chief Arredondo there?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you go to the south door of the 4th grade wing?
No, sir.
Okay. But Robb Elementary is the school district's jurisdiction?
Yes, sir.
And who is the highest person in law enforcement in that jurisdiction?
That would be Chief Arredondo.
Pass the witness.
So,
Thank you, Judge. Officer Gonzalez, we've never met before, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Have you ever testified before?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, this is cross-examination. I'm going to ask you questions. I may push back on some of the things you said, but it's not to be disrespectful or to question your character. There's serious allegations, and so I need to ask some serious questions, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you don't understand my question, just ask me to repeat it, and I'm happy to do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, what did you review in preparation for your testimony today?
As far as, like, what do you mean?
Anything. What did you review? Video, statements, reports?
Oh, no, sir. I didn't review anything.
Nothing.
No, sir.
Did you prepare any reports after this incident?
No, sir.
No one asked you, Rangers didn't ask you to make a report or just to notify and notate anything?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Are you going off of your memory?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And since this horrible incident, obviously there's been a lot of media, right?
Yes, sir.
And you've seen a lot of the media, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
And there's been a lot of talk about this, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna try to have you focus back on what you think you were perceiving and seeing at that time. Is that fair? Is that okay, officer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You talked about jurisdiction. I'm not sure whether the government asked you questions about your jurisdiction with all the campuses in the district. Did you hear him ask you that?
Yes, sir.
But there were certain officers designated to certain schools.
Yes, sir.
Like Robb Elementary did not have a designated officer.
No, sir.
You know that Adrian was designated to the high school,
Yes, sir.
and that was his full-time position.
Yes, sir.
He was not designated to Robb.
Yes, sir.
None of you were.
Yes, sir.
But actually, and I know you know this, as a Texas peace officer, the whole state of Texas is your jurisdiction.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you can make an arrest anywhere. Is that a
Yes,
fair
sir.
statement?
Yes, sir.
An agency holds your license to make sure that you're a peace officer, but as a Texas peace officer, if you're in Lubbock, you can make an arrest if there's an arrest made in your presence.
Yes, sir.
An offense, I'm sorry, thank you, Jason. If there's an offense done in your presence, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so because Adrian wasn't assigned to Robb Elementary, he didn't have the keys to Robb Elementary.
Yes, sir.
And so I want to talk about keys because you were asked about lockdown procedures. The police department played a role in teaching lockdown procedures, correct?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Have you ever been part of that teaching curriculum?
Not that I'm aware of.
And when you mean not that you're aware of, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I put on presentations at the school, but it was more towards underage drinking, vaping, things like that. It's possible that I may have contributed somehow.
Okay. And when you say you made a presentation at the school, are you a subject matter expert in underage drinking?
No, sir.
So anybody can just give a presentation and you're really a facilitator. You're just clicking through slides and you're presenting information that somebody else created. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And anybody can do that. Someone can put on a training, but really they're just clicking through slides and facilitating information that somebody else put together. That happens often.
Yes, sir.
That's what you did with this underage drinking one, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, on the lockdown procedure, you know this from your experience that all school doors should always be locked.
Yes, sir.
Because they asked you a question about officers going around to check if doors were locked, right?
Yes, sir.
And is that because, unfortunately, there was a kind of a culture of teachers leaving doors unlocked for convenience so that they can get in and out of these school classrooms?
Yes, sir.
And you heard of the magnet system, right?
Yes, sir.
And so teachers in that whole district, approved by some of the schools, would be used this magnet system to where if the door was technically locked, you could use that magnet system to stop the latch from catching on the frame, correct?
Yes, sir.
And because they didn't have a key fob process in and out, it would be convenient for either a student or really substitutes to get in and out because they didn't have keys, right?
Yes, sir.
But that was, and I'm not being disrespectful, we just have to talk about this. I mean, that culture was against, I was going to use the word antithetical, but it's against the procedures of the school district, right?
Yes, sir.
Because those doors have to be locked.
Yes, sir.
Now, one second. Now, when it comes to lockdown procedure, will you go through the steps that a teacher should follow when a lockdown has been called?
Ensure that the doors are locked. Turn off the lights. Close blinds. Get the students out of view.
And out of view, because if somebody has bad intentions and has a weapon, if they're looking in classrooms, they're going to see if there's someone in a classroom that'll catch their attention to go in, correct?
Yes, sir.
And time is of the essence. The government's been using that phrase, and I agree with it. Time is of the essence on these active shooter situations, right?
Yes, sir.
And those locked doors give law enforcement like yourself time to be notified, and we'll talk about the Raptor system in a second, to be notified so you can respond and hopefully engage someone with bad intentions and neutralize them,
Yes, sir.
right? And so the first layer of defense is the school building itself to be locked.
Yes, sir.
And that's why it has to be locked.
Yes, sir.
Correct. The second layer of defense are those individual classrooms, and they have to be locked.
Yes, sir.
Right. And the only defense that these teachers and these precious children have, the only defense they have, is those locked doors.
Yes, sir.
All the other things that you described are tactics to not be seen, but that's not a defense, right?
Yes, sir.
So if children were underneath the table, hiding, but the door wasn't locked, that does them no good.
Correct.
And you know that unfortunately on May 24th, 2022, Robb Elementary, the building doors were not locked, correct?
Correct.
And you know now that room 111 was not locked.
Correct.
Some of your training for active shooter, you said was 8 hours?
I believe so.
Was some of that online? Or is that another training you were talking about?
No, that was a separate training.
But some of the training, and it's not your fault, it's just because you have to get these qualifications. Some of them can be done on a computer screen, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, your active training, the government asked you about it, was an 8-hour training, and you said that Officer Ruiz and Officer Adrian Gonzales facilitated that, right?
Yes, sir.
And facilitated meaning that they did some classroom, right? The morning was classroom, right?
Yes, sir.
And the afternoon, you classified it as hands-on. But do you know the term stress inoculation?
No, sir.
Okay. Stress inoculation, and you did some of the training, if you don't understand that's the labeling of it, is where you're placed in a stressful situation where your heart rate is up. You're trying to recreate a similar situation that you may deal with to inoculate you, get used to that circumstance in real life. That's part of your training in the academy?
Yes, sir.
And you have combatives?
Yes, sir.
And you have hand-to-hand, open-hand techniques?
Yes, sir.
You have control techniques, because you can't always punch or strike somebody, right?
Yes, sir.
And in your academy, you have open-hand strikes, correct?
Yes, sir.
You can use forearms.
Yes, sir.
God forbid, sometimes you can use an elbow, right?
Yes, sir.
Hammer fists,
Yes, sir.
elbows,
Yes, sir.
knees. And so all that can be done, but then also you can use manipulation tools where you're manipulating someone to get handcuffs on them without having to strike them, right?
Yes, sir.
And then in the continuum of use of force, some officers have an asp, right?
Yes, sir.
In the old days, I'm an older dude, they had a baton.
Yes, sir.
You have tasers,
Yes, sir.
and then you have your sidearm
Yes, sir.
with backup magazines,
Yes, sir.
and you have handcuffs.
Yes, sir.
So all of those are use of force that you're trained into, and some of those you're trained to inoculate, to do those under stressful situations. So hopefully you don't need to, but if you need to, you can perform well.
Yes, sir.
So with this afternoon scenarios that you had with Adrian and Officer Ruiz, it was more of a conversation. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Right. I mean, you guys didn't go through the school and use Robb Elementary or one of the high schools to simulate an active shooter.
So they ran us through some scenarios like in the auditorium area.
Okay.
I don't know if that's more or less what you're.
No,
what
it's
you're
not,
implying.
but let's talk about that because I want to go where you want to go. So the auditorium is a big area which has kind of escalated seating, right?
Yes, sir.
And so it's mainly for plays or for gatherings or maybe pep rallies. That's what that's used for more. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In the auditorium at the high school, there's rooms on the behind the main area.
At the high school?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're gonna all my questions are in relation to Robb Elementary, okay?
Okay.
And in your afternoon portion of the scenarios, you didn't have a hallway with different rooms that you cleared hallways and you got into a stressful situation. Do you know what stacking is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you guys didn't train in active, realistic stacking to where you're down a fatal funnel. The jury's heard a lot about a fatal funnel. You know what that is, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so, and then under stress, work rooms and clear a school. You didn't do that in the afternoon, right?
No, sir.
You essentially maybe walked through or talked about scenarios that if this happens, keep this in mind, and you're planning suggestions, right?
Yes, sir.
This, in 8 hours, if you split that up, 4 hours in classroom, you're 4 hours of talking about scenarios, essentially.
Yes, sir.
And so Adrian, Officer Gonzalez and Officer Ruiz essentially facilitated it and talked about it, and then everyone, it was kind of a group discussion based off you're reading a manual, you're reading a curriculum that somebody else gave them, like you did with the underage drinking, and then everyone's talking about what they trained before.
Yes, sir.
Essentially, right?
Yes, sir.
And when the government asked you, did you guys go over solo training, you paused, and I wrote it down, you said, I believe so, but you're not sure.
No, sir.
Right. And so solo training is very different than stacking and active shooting, right?
Yes, sir.
And you know that in active shooter training, it's usually done with some type of long rifle.
Yes, sir.
M4, AR-15,
Yes, sir.
and then your sidearm is your secondary weapon.
Yes, sir.
And so when someone stacks, there's usually a shield, and then people are behind them, and they're moving. At some point, once you breach a room, people are going to break off, clear a room, and then hopefully engage the attacker,
Yes, sir.
the bad guy. And you guys didn't do that.
No, sir.
Have you ever trained in breaching a door?
No, sir.
And that's not typical training for a school police officer. And I'm not being condescending or disrespectful. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but that's not typical for a school district police officer, right?
No, sir.
But even though you haven't been trained in this, you know that there's a difference between breaching a door that opens inward versus open outward, correct?
Yes, sir.
On outward, you need tools, and the jury's heard about the tools you need.
Objection, she said she has not been through that training, Your Honor.
But she
So
says
this
she
would
knows
be
about it.
beyond her. It'd be speculation if she hadn't been trained in it.
Okay, only answer if you know, ma'am. Go ahead. I'll overrule the objection.
They don't want me to ask you these questions, but do you understand this
All I'm going to
training?
ask the questions that they know, not that they speculate about, Your Honor.
Yeah, I just only answer if you know of your own personal knowledge.
Yes, sir.
Understood?
Yes, sir.
Proceed.
Have you heard through your training experience, not personally, but you know about outward doors, breaching an outward swinging door, correct?
Yes, sir.
You know that you can't kick open an outward swinging door.
Yes, sir.
You don't need special training to know that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you know that there's tools needed to breach an outward swinging doors. I'm not asking you how to do it. You just know there's tools needed, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I was going to ask you. Now, on May 24th, 2022, am I moving too fast?
No, sir.
Okay. And you know if I get a little passionate, it's not towards you, okay, Officer Gonzalez? It's not you at all, okay? So just bear with me. And if you think I'm, just tell me to, hey, Nico, calm down, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. You said you left to have lunch at home.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I believe you testified you live, without giving the address, you live less than a mile from Robb Elementary.
Yes, sir.
And you heard gunshots?
Yes, sir.
And then I believe you said that you have a bulletproof vest that you put back on. Do you know if it's rated for long rifle or just for handgun?
I'm not sure.
They don't let you know that when it's probably for just a handgun, or you don't know?
I'm not sure, sir.
Okay. But that you said that you heard, initially you heard there was a vehicle accident, and that would be a 1050, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when I say 1050, different things that are called in, different incidents that are called in have a labeling.
Yes, sir.
And so at 1050, and then you believe you heard Sergeant Coronado say that it was shots fired.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Did you later come to find out and know that Sergeant Coronado, Officer Salcedo, and Officer Mendoza were actually on the west side of Robb Elementary before the shooter made it into the building? Did you find that out later on?
I believe it was mentioned, yes, sir.
And so you don't know where Sergeant Coronado was when he put this out on the radio. You believe it was him. Are you sure it was him, or do you think it was Adrian?
I believe it was Sergeant Coronado.
Okay. Why do you think it was him?
I distinctly remember hearing him yell into the radio.
Okay. But he's not your sergeant because he's not with he's with Uvalde, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you don't know where Sergeant was, whether he was at the corner you later found out, or where he was, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said that you got there and you got there quickly. And I want to bring your attention to that because you described to this jury, based off questions from the government, but it seemed like you condensed time, so I want to make sure we go piece by piece, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Did I hear you correctly that when you got there, you parked on Old Carrizos and where else? What was the other street?
West Cargyle.
West
Cargyle Street?
Cargyle. Okay. Where is that in relation to Robb Elementary? May I approach? I know I can approach there, sorry. You already gave me permission.
So it's right
You
here.
can use this.
No, it's just right here.
Can you see, Rob? Why did you park that far away?
Just that's the route I took to get to the school from my residence.
But if that's the route you take, and I'm just asking, I'm not criticizing, I just would know. If Robb Elementary's here, and you heard shots fired, did you relate shots fired to Robb Elementary, or you just heard shots fired, you didn't know where it was at?
I just heard the shots fired. I wasn't aware of where it was at.
But it seems like you were going to Robb Elementary. At what point did you orientate yourself to Robb Elementary, and why did you know it was here? How?
They said I heard on the radio he's shots fired, he's going towards the school, and I just
You
made the
reassessed.
assumption.
Okay. So you reassessed, and then in your mind, you parked here.
No, sir, I parked further down.
Where?
Right about here.
Okay, here. So you actually went to the front of the school?
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it. Then that's my mistake. And then when you came in here, you entered onto the campus.
Yes, sir.
And then you said, I believe you said on direct examination that you ran into Border Patrol agents already.
Yes, sir.
How long did it take you to get to the school?
Maybe about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, roughly.
Right, and I know it's hard to sometimes. So you're telling us you're within 2 to 3 minutes, Border Patrol agents were already at the school.
I saw one, yes.
Okay. And what other officers? Because you mentioned a number of officers. You said how many officers there? The government asked you, and you said possibly 10. How many agencies did you see from that side of the school?
Maybe about 2 to 3 agencies.
Okay, so 10 officers within 2 to 3 minutes of that shots fired. Within 2 to 3 minutes, there were 2 to 3 agencies and 10 officers, roughly.
Yes, sir.
And that doesn't include, because you're on the other side, you're on the, I guess technically the east side, even though that's the front of the school.
Yes.
That doesn't include, now you know that Sergeant Coronado, Officer Mendoza, and Officer Salcedo were here, right? You know that now.
Yes, sir.
And you know that they were there with line of sight, and the shooter was on the west side of the building, before he went into the building.
Yes,
Correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
But these 10 officers were on the east side, so that doesn't include the 3 officers on the west side, and then Adrian was on the south side, southeast side.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Did they tell you at that time what time they got? Because they were there before you, so if it took you 2 to 3 minutes, they were already out of their vehicles, right?
Yes, sir.
So they were there. What were they doing?
I'm not sure, sir.
Were they taking cover? Were they walking around? Were they pacing? What were they doing?
When I started speaking with them, they were standing like in the breezeway of where the office is.
They weren't running to the gunshots?
No, sir.
And so you understand the government's theory is that every time a gun was fired.
Theory is, Your Honor,
Well,
that
does she-
has to be speculation.
Well, I mean, I asked her if she understands it. If she doesn't, she can tell.
I'll sustain the objection.
And so you have 10 officers from 2 or 3 agencies standing in the breezeway, not running to the gunfire, but yet you proceeded towards the building though. You did.
Yes, sir.
Had you heard more shots by that time?
No, sir.
Had you heard any shots when you got at the scene?
No, sir.
At any point did you hear any shots?
No, sir.
How close did you get to the building?
I think at one point I was by the fence area off of Geraldine Street.
Well, you said that you went to the actual hallway, but you saw there was a lot of officers in there, a lot of officers, and so you said that you wanted to be helpful. So you said that I want to use your words. There were other things needed to be done,
Yes, sir.
and I'm going to ask you what those were, okay? But so at some point you knew that there was a lot of. So by the time you got there, you arrived. If I tell you, and the government can correct me also, if I tell you that you arrived at 11:35:42, does that sound about right?
Possibly, yes, sir.
Right. And are you aware that the monster got into the building at 11:32:58 roughly?
Yes, sir.
Shots fired, 3 minutes. So you're actually fairly it took you 2 to 3 minutes to get there, right?
Yes, sir.
And even though it took you 2 to 3 minutes to get there at 11:35:42, 10 officers were already there on the east side, 2 to 3 different agencies, and then you had 3 officers on the corner with line of sight on the west side of the building, correct?
Yes, sir.
And none of them were running to the gunfire.
No, sir.
Are you aware now, and if you didn't hear it, you didn't hear it, but are you aware now that there were gunshots after 11:35:42?
No, sir.
You're not aware of that?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, I want to bring you back to when you were at home, just before we continue. From your house, you said you heard a gunfire. How close do you live to Dia Street?
Maybe like roughly 0.2 miles.
So you're closer to Dia Street than you are to Robb Elementary.
Yes, sir.
And you know now that there was a gunfire at Dia Street, right?
Yes, sir.
Because that same monster shot his own grandma in the face
Yes, sir.
on Dia Street
Yes, sir.
before he goes to murder children and to try to kill cops, right?
Yes, sir.
And so it makes sense what you testified. You heard the shot before you heard the 1050 wreck.
Yes, sir.
Because the wreck happened as that animal was trying to get away from what he thought was a murder of his grandma,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes,
And
sir.
so you heard the shot on Dia Street of his grandma. That coward tries to go away, then he wrecks the car, and then that's when the 1050 comes out, the accident.
Yes, sir.
And so that's actually consistent. So when you said there was other things that needed to be done, you described some of them. Do you agree that the most important thing that needed to be done was to get those children out of the school?
Yes, sir.
But yet, and I'm not bragging on you, I'm just saying, but there was a lot of officers that weren't doing that. They were formulating a plan, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you went to do crowd control.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Officer Gonzalez. Pass the witness, Judge.
So when you got there, you heard no shots,
No, sir.
and you got there within about 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
So all of the shooting, as far as you were concerned, had been accomplished by the time you got there.
Yes, sir.
You couldn't have done anything to stop it after 3 minutes.
No, sir.
So those first 3 minutes were very important.
Yes, sir.
And you talked a moment, I'm not sure the relevance of it, but you talked a moment about the hand-to-hand combat techniques you had, so that you would understand the stress, and somehow that stress inoculates you so you can act when you need to.
Yes, sir.
When did that training occur?
That one occurred in the academy.
The
And-
basic academy?
Yes, sir.
And did you have any training since then?
No, sir.
So it was one-time training,
Yes, sir.
and that was enough for you to have the stressful inoculation that the defense was asking about.
Yes, sir.
And finally, it's safe to say that you were a coworker of Adrian Gonzales, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
This is hard for you.
Yes, sir.
Prefer not to be here.
Yes, sir.
But you did talk to Texas Ranger about who said shots fired, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Let's see if this refreshes your memory, this blue line.
Yes, sir.
And who was it that you heard say shots fired?
At this time, Officer Adrian Gonzales.
Not Coronado, but Adrian Gonzales. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Pass the witness.
So when I was asking that question, you were mistaken. I was right when I said it was Mr. Gonzalez, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Or at least appears to be that way.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. And so the government asked you all of the shooting had accomplished by the time you arrived.
Yes,
Remember that question?
Yes, sir.
And you arrived at 11:35:42.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that at 11:35:43 there were shots fired in room
She
111?
just said that that's all the shots fired she heard, Your
Well,
Honor. That has to be speculation.
Well, no, this is from Texas Ranger report, Judge. The
It doesn't
same
matter
report that
if
they're
the
referring to.
report is from what she saw or heard. That's what I'm asking the
Yeah,
limitation.
I guess, ma'am, if you said all the shots were done, you're gonna say you don't know that, but it's your personal knowledge.
That's
So
right.
I'll rule the objection. Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. And so, do you know that at 11:35:43 there were shots fired in room 111, 1 second after you got there?
No, sir.
Do you know that at 11:35:44 there were shots fired?
No, sir.
At 11:35:44 another shot fired.
No, sir.
11:35:51 shots fired.
No, sir.
11:35:51 shot fired.
No, sir.
11:35:51 shot fired.
No, sir.
11:35:52 shots fired.
No, sir.
11:35:52 shot fired.
No, sir.
11:35:52 shot fired.
No, sir.
11:35:56 shot fired.
No, sir.
11:35:57 shots fired.
No, sir.
I'm gonna stop, but so all the shooting hadn't been done at 11:35:42, correct? Obviously,
Yes, from what you're saying, yes, sir.
yeah. And I'm not blaming you. I'm just trying to bring light to this. But there were 10 officers on the scene on the east side, and there were 3 officers that saw this person before he went into the building, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Pass the witness, Judge.
And I was just asking, as far as you were concerned, you testified that you didn't hear any shots. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
And so just based on what you knew,
Yes, sir.
is that a fair way to do things, to testify about what you know?
Yes, sir.
Let other people testify about what they know.
Yes, sir.
Pass the witness.
Anything else?
No more questions, Judge. Thank you, officer.
Yes, sir.
Recall the other side.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, the rule's been invoked in this case. You are released from the subpoena. You're released to go. But please don't talk about the case with anybody until you're aware the trial's over.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you your afternoon recess. Let's take about 10, 15 minutes. Will everyone rise for the jury, please?